Welcome to the new interesting news. June 18, 2023. New interesting news. BBC News. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken held candid and constructive talks with China's foreign minister in Beijing at the start of 2 days of meetings with Chinese officials, the U.S. State Department has said.
Mr. Blinken emphasized the need for diplomacy and keeping open channels of communication, U.S. officials added. The trip, the first by a U.S. diplomat to China in almost 5 years, comes months after an earlier Blinken visit was postponed when a suspected Chinese spy balloon flew in U.S. airspace. U.S. officials say the main goal of the talks is to stabilize a relationship that has become extremely tense. China's Foreign Minister Qin Gang told Mr. Blinken that Beijing was committed to building a stable, predictable, and constructive relationship with the U.S., state media said.
U.S. officials said he agreed to visit to Washington at the talks. Mr. Qin said Taiwan was the most prominent risk for China-U.S. relations and the Taiwan issue as one of China's core interests, state media said. China sees self-ruled Taiwan as a breakaway province that will be Beijing's control. Mr. Qin greeted Mr. Blinken on Sunday morning at the Diaoyutai State Guest House, a lavish estate that typically hosts visiting dignitaries. The two shook hands as they stood before their respective flags, then sat down with their delegations at long tables to begin their meetings. The greeting was businesslike, underscoring the chilly relations that have developed between two superpowers in recent years. 3 key priorities in crucial U.S.-China talks. The U.S. had been lowering expectations for the trip and both sides have made clear they do not expect any major breakthrough. The war in Ukraine, trade disputes over advanced computer technologies, the fentanyl drug epidemic in the U.S. and Chinese human rights conduct are hot topics. Chinese officials have reacted coolly to Mr. Blinken's visit, questioning whether the U.S. is sincere in its efforts to mend relations. It is not clear whether he will meet Chinese President Xi Jinping. Mr. Blinken is the highest-ranking U.S. government official to visit China since President Joe Biden took office in January 2021. If we want to make sure a competition that we have with China doesn't veer into conflict, the place you. June 18, Reuters, the deaths in flooding following the destruction of the Kakhovka Dam has risen to 16 in Ukraine. 29 people have died in territories that Moscow controls. The breaching of the Kakhovka Dam on June 6 unleashed floodwaters across a large swath of land in southern Ukraine and the breaching of the Kakhovka Dam on June 6 unleashed floodwaters across a large swath of land in southern Ukraine and in Russia-occupied parts of Ukraine, destroying farmland and cutting off supplies to civilians. More than 3,600 people have been evacuated from the flooded areas in the Kherson and Mykolaiv regions, while 31 people were still missing and some 1,300 houses remained flooded, Ukraine's Interior Ministry said on its Telegram channel late on Saturday. Ukraine accuses Russia of blowing up the Soviet-era dam, under Russian control since early days of its invasion in 2022. A team of international legal experts assisting Ukraine's prosecutors in their investigation said in preliminary findings on Friday it was highly likely. The collapse in Ukraine's Kherson region was caused by explosives. The Kremlin accuses Kyiv of sabotaging the hydroelectric dam, which held a reservoir the size of the U.S. Great Salt Lake, to cut water for Crimea and distract attention from a faltering counteroffensive against Russian forces.